All right, let's do this.
All right.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another podcast of DJ Keo.
And I am Basil Barrington. Dude.
It's been a crazy
Dude.
show. This is a crazy
Dude.
show.
We are here to talk about Loki episode 4, the Nexus Event. Yes.
Yeah, Nexus Event.
The Nexus Event. And I watched it 2 times. How many times did you watch it?
I watched it twice. And there's a lot of stuff that happened in the show. And okay, before we even talk about the show, were you on the right path for what you were thinking was going to happen, or were you just completely shocked and blown away? Did you get anything right?
Well, we did. Remember, right? We said at the end of the last episode of the podcast, we said, how do we think, they're going to get off the planet, Lamentus? And we were like, oh, the TVA is going to save them. And that's what happened, right?
Yeah, I wasn't worried about that at all.
That was pretty obvious, right? So I wasn't really surprised, but there were some things that sort of, that was intriguing. It's just they're doing a really great job at setting up these episodes and just saying, hey, the next one is coming. They're doing a great job at that, What do you think?
I think we did. Didn't we talk about the timekeepers? We had questions about them, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll do the breakdown of what happened in the show, but
why don't you give a quick overview of it? Yes, I have questions too. You want to give an overview of episode 4?
Basically, the show starts off with Loki and Sylvie on Lamentus, and they're starting to realize the gravity of their situation, and they basically just give up, and they're just sitting on a rock watching the moon crater into the other moon. And they're like, this is all it. And then we get a flashback, and we get it from Sylvie's perspective of being a Loki and getting snatched up from the time cops, the TVA.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Who's the person who grabbed her?
Renslayer. Yes.
Renslayer grabbed her. So they got some real history between each other. She escapes, and I think she made it her mission to figure out who the hell took her, and because she couldn't go back to her timeline because they erased her timeline, and so I think that's when the vendetta. So as a kid, the vendetta started from I'm going to take these people out there who took me from my home, my family, whatever.
Right.
So I think we get back to Mobius as he's having drinks with Renslayer, and I think he's starting to question some things. He's got some he's got some questions about how stuff happened.
Yeah.
So he's asking about, was it C20? It was Hunter C20.
Yes, Hunter C20.
Yeah, they said that she went crazy, and they didn't say how she died. They just said that she's dead. She went crazy and she's dead. So I think they gave the impression that she killed herself or something like that, but I don't know. We can't say for certain. They just said that she's dead. So he's got questions, and he snatches her device. He switches his device with hers.
Yeah.
And then he goes to, doesn't he go to Loki?
Well, he goes to the library first to.
Yeah, he goes to the library first to
search the device.
Yeah. And then he sees her tell the story, or C20 is doing the interrogation, and she's like, "No, we're all variants." Yeah. And he basically is like, "Oh, okay, this is it." So I cannot remember, when did Mobius put Loki in that time loop? Did that happen before or after? I can't remember.
When they brought Loki and Sylvie back to the TVA, that was something that was something that they put both Lokis in different sort of areas, and then they threw Loki 1 into this like time loop where this like chick was just like beating him up all the time.
Yeah, she's from the Thor movies.
Okay.
She's one of the good companions from Thor,
and apparently
Loki complicated story.
Yeah, did something wrong. So, and he kept putting him back in there. Like a temporary punishment. And then once he found out that, hey, what Loki was saying is true, he went back in and said, "Listen, I believe you, but you have to trust me, or I'm going to trust you." It gets. It's complicated, but it's a good complication. And it's kind of easy to follow along as well. With this episode.
It's straightforward.
Yeah, like I said, it's pretty cool.
So B15? The Hunter B15
Hunter
starts the
B15, dude. Because, and you know why?
Yeah.
Because when they were at the rocks cart, she, was transferred to right.
She went to Sylvia's cell and dragged her out, or took her out from there, took her back to the rocks cart, which I thought they were going to go into the store, but they just did it in the middle of the storm. So
right,
I thought that was interesting. But so she probed her mind. And she realized, like, oh wait, I haven't always been a time cop. So that thing, she knew something else is fishy going on too. So Mobius on his own found something's fishy, and then B15 found something's fishy going on as well.
Yeah,
on their own separately. And
so it's crazy because when they were at the rocks cart in episode 3, well, I'm sorry, was that episode 2 or episode 3? I think that was episode 2. Yeah. So she experienced something because she was sort of enchanted, right? And there you go. Okay.
Yeah, so you're saying at the store.
So she was like C15, she was enchanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, B15 was enchanted. So she was like, wait a minute, I have a life, So she had always been like thinking about that. And then when, she asked Mobius, like, hey, did she say anything? And then he was like, well, something about, we're all like, this isn't real. She started thinking, and then that's when she went back into, and checked out Sylvie and was like, took her back to the rocks cart. And dude.
So, okay, there's a couple things that was crazy about this episode, but we finished the rundown first. So they
pretty interesting.
So after that, Mobius got caught from taking the device, right?
Yeah.
And so she realized, and Mobius is with Loki walking the hallway or coming back, and I think that Renslayer realized, oh, they switched it, and they just killed Mobius right there.
Right,
which is shocking.
They come back through the time door,
through the portal,
the time portal, right? Exactly, and they were right there waiting, and then he was like, "Oh, I picture Tempat up, by mistake." And she, pruned him, and that was it.
She did the whole time. Yeah,
that was
she did the whole time. She's gonna let him. Like, that's it. Do you think she felt sad about it, or she's like, "This is business. Got to do with it"?
She looked like she was a little sad. You know what I'm saying? She looked like she was a little sad, but she also looked like that she destroyed someone that may have been. She was trying to. Yes, she cared about him because I always thought maybe they had something going on. But, also that he was coming around in terms of this whole big plan, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because who knows? Renslayer may be, part of the plan, or maybe she's running the whole thing. I don't know.
I don't know. When she's going down to see when she went to see the timekeepers,
the lizards, the timekeepers, the lizard people. Mm-hmm.
So when she went down to see them, I think she gave the impression that this big whole she's subservient to them or whatever, and it turns out they're robots.
Androids, dude.
So I think she was trying to keep the lie going because she was like, protect them when they got to the big fight at the end of the show.
But why though? That's the whole thing.
Well, you're protecting the lie. You got to keep the lie going. So when you're dealing with the timekeepers or whatever, I think that she's trying to maintain the lie. And because if they're robots, just prune whoever's the guard that saw and then go on about your business. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that complicated. I don't know. What do you think? Okay, the reveal that the timekeepers are not real. How does this change the projection of where the show is going?
Okay, so see, again, I mean, I alluded to this, like, is she actually part of this? You know, is this her, you know, sort of, you know, is this her creation, right? You know, not to mention the timekeepers, which were androids, robots, basically. They were all connected. So when one died, the others sort of like, you know, died as well, right? So I don't know if that was a fail safe or whatever, but like you said, they're like androids, so they can be sort of, you know, recreated or whatever it is. But I mean, who knows? Renslayer may be the ringleader.
But at one point in time, she was a regular time cop, though.
Yeah,
because she's the one that got Sylvie or Loki, female Loki. She got her, so clearly she went up in the ranks.
Yeah,
and I think you get high enough, and you figure out what's going on here.
You become a judge, you know, everything else, you know. Yeah, it is crazy, man. So they built it up to the point where they found out that, you know, hey, we're all variants in this joint, right? In the TVA. Mm-hmm. And so Renslayer destroys, you know, prunes Mobius. He's done. And then they take these two Lokis, Loki and Sylvie, down to see the timekeepers. Now, here are some interesting things about that because a fight ensued, right? And so Sylvie and Renslayer was fighting. And, you know, Sylvie punched, you know, Renslayer. Now, for some reason, I thought she like crushed her head with a punch, right? And she was dead.
Yeah, I thought she killed her. I thought she was done for.
and here's something else. Now, you know, who was it? B-15, Hunter B-15 came in, released the sort of restraints around Loki and Sylvie's neck, and then they all started fighting. Now, remember, Hunter B-15 was not pruned, right? So is she still alive?
I think she is.
She was just punched out. She was just knocked out, right?
She just knocked her. Yeah, she fought some other the cops or guards, and they just knocked her out.
Dude,
so
this
I guess they're laying in the smoke.
That's what I'm saying, man. You know, so I think you know, the whole fight scene, that was pretty cool. You know, again, I think Hunter B-15 is still alive. Obviously, Renslayer was alive, and I thought her head was crushed by, you know, Sylvie just punching her. I mean, it sounded like it, right? Yeah.
Lokis are powerful. They're strong. They're, you know, they're ice giants or whatever. They're supposed to be powerful. They're not. They shouldn't be thrown around by regular humans.
I was about to say that. I was about to say, you know, it doesn't seem like that, you know, Loki and Sylvie as Lokis, right? They're not as powerful as you're saying, because every time I see them fight, they're like getting, you know,
they're not supposed to get dusted by human beings.
Humans, right?
Regular humans.
Right, exactly.
Loki is an ice giant, and that's like the mortal enemy of Asgardians or whatever. And they gave them a lot of trouble. So they're not like, Loki's basically a miniature version of them, but he's still supposed to be as strong as them. So he's on par with the Asgardians as Thor is. Thor is super strong without his hammer. Right. So Loki's on that level, maybe just a little bit lower than
Doesn't seem like that, though, does it?
He's been tossed around by human beings, and that doesn't. I mean, if you say, well, in the TVA, when they lose their powers, they lose their strength or whatever as well. I guess that kind of makes sense. But in general, when they're not in the TVA buildings, they're still getting tossed around. That just makes sense to me.
When they were on Lamentus, they were getting tossed around, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Loki is super strong. And he's durable. He's very hard to kill. And I think they forgot the continuity from the movies and the books and all the comics and stuff. Because that's part of the continuity, that Loki's very strong. He's durable. He's not somebody that, if the Hulk can pick him up and bash him back and forth like a rag doll, and he survives, that guy's durable. So he wouldn't be, someone couldn't punch him around or whatever, and it'd be no big deal.
Let me ask you a question. What's Renslayer's deal? What's going on with her?
She is supposed to be a character that's connected to Kang the Conqueror, and so like they completely changed the continuity for the character or whatever. But so Kang the Conqueror is one of the Avengers' biggest mortal enemy, next to Thanos. Like he's a big deal in the Marvel universe, and she's supposed to be like his wife, but not really. They like have a love-hate relationship type thing going on, and sometimes she's bad, sometimes she's good. She has basic powers. She's more like regular mortal, and she has like a super suit or something like that. But like generally, she's attached to him. So the fact that she's in this show, everybody's just like, oh no, Kang's coming. Kang's gonna be here. Kang's there. If you look at the forums, everything, Kang's coming. Next episode 6, Kang's gonna be here, and then it's gonna go right to the Avengers and whatever, and it's gonna be the thing because he's a big villain in the Marvel universe. He's a huge villain, and he's has something to do with time travel. He's from the future, and he's gone back in time because he's defeated everybody in the future. So he's gone back in time to fight the Avengers so he can have something to do. I guess he's bored.
Do you think she has anything to do with the Timekeepers, the creation of the Timekeepers?
She knows more than what's going on. Absolutely.
Dude.
Because her character in the comic book, she's attached to time travel and stuff. So
okay,
it makes sense that she would know more than what's going on.
I was like
she's
distracted
not a bit
because I'm hearing like some stuff and I'm like, oh, that's the rain coming down. Dude. So do you think, okay, so Mobius is gone, or is he?
I accidentally watched the preview for the next show. So I'm going to say, well, did you see the preview yet for episode 5?
I don't, where do they show that?
You don't watch the previews at all? It's on YouTube.
Oh, just, on YouTube, yeah. No, I don't watch those, you know.
You just wait for it to come on. I clicked it because somebody was talking about it. And I was like, damn it, I got to go see this thing. So, yeah, I saw, and spoiler, Loki's alive still.
Yeah.
And he seems to be in some kind of parallel universe. And so we have questions now because when they prune people, do they just delete from existence? Or are they where Loki is in this parallel universe? We don't know yet. We got to wait for the show. But
at the end of episode 4, if you watch it all the way through, they show Loki waking up, and then these 3 people there. One person with a lizard, it's just like they're you're not in hell, but you have to come with us, that sort of thing. So I'm not sure, but he is alive. Yes, I don't know what sort of universe he's in, but he's definitely alive.
Definitely some kind of parallel universe or whatever. In DC, they call it like the anti-universe, anti-matter type thing.
Well, he did say we don't die; we always come back, right?
He's extremely hard to kill. In the movies, he's died like 3 times already. Right. So, yeah, he's hard to kill. If somebody died a tragic death, you're like, Loki's fine. He'll be all right. Like,
so okay. Now, they had this huge fight. They realized that the Timekeepers are androids. Mobius is dead. I don't think Hunter B-15 is dead because they did not. Nothing. I mean, she wasn't like dissolved, right? She didn't get killed.
I think she just got knocked out.
Right. So Renslayer and Sylvie have a fight at the end after Loki is pruned, and then Sylvie doesn't kill her. She wants to know everything.
She wants to explain everything.
Okay, where do we go from here?
I think that the next episode is going to show where Loki is and him trying to get out of there. And I think that we're going to get a lot of explanations about what the hell is going on right now. I think that all the action was going to be in episode 4 and maybe episode 6. And episode 5 is going to be a lot of talking. So it's probably going to be a shorter show too.
You know what? There just are not a lot of people in the TVA, is there?
No, there's not.
You don't see people walking around in cities and everything, so it's just like, it's a small group of people. That's it. You
Well,
know,
they showed you out the window, and it looks like this big, massive city.
city, right? Yeah, but do you see
But
people?
no, everybody. There's the one librarian lady. There's a couple guards we see, and we saw
That's
the
it.
part where the judges are, and then that's
That
pretty much
that
it.
is that is it, man. So I don't know like how that works. I mean, we even spoke about, when there was some sort of just something that a Nexus event, and then they had to send in hunters. It looked like they only sent 20 hunters, right?
Yeah, yeah, it didn't look like that many.
Right,
And it looked
exactly.
like they solved all of the problems because the next episode they didn't talk about it at all. It
At
didn't it
all.
looked like they immediately got to the bottom of it and fixed whatever she did with the bomb thing.
Mhm.
It looks like they fixed that instantly almost because that's how they found them is that they were looking for some kind of variant
Yeah.
in a timeline. But
Mhm.
for a previous show, there's
Something
all kind
large
of
enough, though.
variants.
Right.
Yeah, there's all the timeline was going crazy from the previous show. Everyone's running out the room.
Yeah.
And then this one here, I guess they solved it. So I don't know.
How
I
was Sylvie able to figure out that, when she escaped as a young girl, this was the only way she can hide from the TVA in these sort of
she
like catastrophic events?
Yeah, she said that they kept catching her, and she realized at a certain point in time, I guess since she got older, that okay, well, I need to go someplace where they have the catastrophes are happening,
Mhm.
so you can go there and hide out. I guess that's what she said. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Loki figured it out fairly quickly too, so maybe it's inherent to Loki's to figure out this is a good place to hide because Loki's are about survival. Like they're
Yeah.
about whoever they're dealing with is about coming out on top. So I think they're like roaches. Like they figured it out.
I thought you
They're gonna
said you
last to
had
the
some
end.
questions. Do you have some questions?
Yeah, well, I kind of asked the first one already about
Mm-hmm.
if the timekeepers are not real,
Mm-hmm.
then who set this up? And how does it work? Where they get the technology from? Why did they decide to go just grab the variants to use those guys as the people that run this thing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did this thing come about? I really want some answers now that the timekeepers aren't real. Because like if the timekeepers are real, you could suspend belief and be like, okay, well, the timekeepers did that. You don't have to explain themselves; they're beyond your grasp. It's like the Green Lanterns.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, the Guardians they did it, so that you don't need to ask any more questions. Guardians made the rings, yada yada yada. Go on with it. So
Mm-hmm.
if this thing is on par with that, once they became robots or androids, I have a million questions about well, what timeline started this? Who decided this is the perfect timeline? Like where did they come from? Who built this thing? How did they get the technology? Are
Yeah,
they from the future? Are they from the past? Like whatever.
that's what I
I'm
mean.
assuming because
You
the
know,
technology is retro, so it looks like they're kind of from the past and also kind of from the future. Even like the little device that they use, it's like remember those old Casio games that
yeah.
had like the lights on it? That's what it
It
looks like. Remember the
looks like,
football thing?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it looks like.
exactly.
That's what it has that retro feel. So it looks like they're stuck in time, or they did something from they they, they made the '60s the future, or something like that. I don't know, like whatever year they picked.
I have a question on top of that. Why bring these people into these variants into the TVA? Why are they needed in the
'Cause
TVA?
if you grab somebody that's not a variant, you're gonna ruin that timeline. So you have to grab people that aren't supposed to be there in the first place. Like that, that kind of makes sense to me. You
Mm,
have to grab people that shouldn't exist, so no one would miss them if you remove their timeline. But
okay,
like, I
but
get that.
who decides that though?
Well,
Because
that's the
again, we don't
question.
even know like what the TVA is, why was it created, who runs the TVA. Could it also be, you were talking about the timekeepers, could those androids be, just just something that these people would see up front, but there are really other timekeepers, real timekeepers in the background someplace, just to put something up there just in case something
Mhm.
pops off like it did and someone slices the head off one of these robotic timekeepers, but the real timekeepers are still alive.
Well, I think okay. If we're keeping the idea that timekeepers are real,
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe they existed at one point in time, and maybe they died off, or they're like, we're retiring,
Mm-hmm.
and so this kind of could be a replacement for them just to keep the ruse going.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like they got their gold watch and they're like, we're going back to Timekeeper Land. And so here's some robots and we'll just use those instead. Something like that. Or they just died. Something, maybe somebody like a Loki came in there and killed them. And so they had to fix this thing to keep it going. So I mean, that's a possibility too. But
do you think so? I don't know. Now I'm not sure if this is a plan that was concocted by Loki. I'm not sure
well,
now.
he said he from the beginning. Well, okay, we talked about this before.
Yeah.
Mobius put the idea in his head about seeing the timekeepers
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't know what the timekeepers were when he went over there in the first place, and then
Right.
he said, "I want to go see them." So I think that kind of thing was maybe suggested to him, but I I don't know. Maybe Loki knew the whole time. I don't know. I don't know. Something like I think that a character like Loki who's been through space and time already, because he's had the Infinity Stone,
Yeah.
so he knows about things that regular people shouldn't know.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that maybe he's heard of this thing before or something. If if Loki's not a bumbling idiot and he's just falling forward into this whole story, he probably knew about some more about the timekeepers than he let on. If that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm making sense right now.
Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, like how did what happened on Lamentus that made was such a variant that made the TVA see them in the first place? Because
Mm,
these guys are on a planet that's going to be destroyed anyway.
right.
So there shouldn't be a loss for two variants to go away. That shouldn't be a loss.
Yeah.
It should have been of if the planet ended and two variants were on it, no one would miss them anyway. So that
Mm,
I'm kind of curious what exactly happened that made that be because like you're in a place that's gonna you're going off a cliff anyway.
yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do when you're falling off the cliff. So what happened that made the TVA see, oh, okay, they're on this planet? Like that's the question I have. I don't know.
So I thought that it was this, right? I thought that it was obviously Lamentus is about to be destroyed by this other planet, like about to crash into it. So you have all these like meteorites like falling into it. This really huge one, like, just
Mm-hmm.
slammed into it. And then it
Yeah,
created this
visuals
cascade of
crazy.
right, listen. For like episode, this is a good show, but let me finish this here. So this huge meteorite, slams into the planet, and that was the huge sort of event that
Mm-hmm.
made the TVA see that something was going off on the timeline, because they were
Mm-hmm.
saying like we should be able to see like even a person step on a leaf. But then this huge sort of event happened, like a planet,
Yeah.
like this huge meteorite slamming into a planet. It's about to be destroyed. But here's the thing: why weren't you
Mm-hmm.
able to see that? If you're saying that you would be able to see even a leaf, all these
Mm-hmm.
other smaller meteorites are slamming into the planet. Why weren't you able to see those? Right?
Yeah, like it has to be there has to be a better explanation of the two Lokis talking to each other. There has to be a better explanation for why this thing, because the variant was just going straight up. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it was like a little blip and then
Yeah.
whatever. It
Hmm.
was going straight. So something was going on the planet with them being there that made it so that this superseded it being an extinction thing. And is it lazy writing or a plot hole or they had an actual explanation for it? I don't know, but I'm kind of
Mm.
curious about that.
What do you think about episode 4, Loki episode 4, the Nexus event?
I give it a 7.5. I think it picked up steam from where it was from the last show. I mean,
Hmm.
the last show was good, but you only got one nugget of information from the whole
That's
show
it.
about the
Yeah.
variant, and then
Hmm.
the rest of it was just the chase sequences and talking. So it wasn't. It didn't add. Well, it added some important detail, but it wasn't crazy amount of detail. This one adds a lot more detail into
It
what the
really
hell's going
does,
on.
doesn't it? Yeah.
You know about Sylvie's background. You know that the variant thing is real. It's not like just something that they told everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There's more proof about that. You know the timekeepers aren't real.
Mm-hmm.
Mobius got killed. Loki got killed, or they got pruned.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's a lot of stuff going on here with this show. So definitely I like when the plot moves forward
Yeah.
rather than this is a coaster show where it's nothing's really going on. It's just wasting time
Yeah.
adding to the numbers. So
Yeah.
yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot better.
I am going to give this show, I have given the previous 3 episodes a 7.
Mm.
I am going to give this episode an 8. And
Okay, jump it up to 8.
It's because it was a really okay. Let me say this first of all, right? I'm not, and I said this previously to you. Like, I'm not a sort of MCU, Marvel, DC sort of comic sort of person. So I have to give you props because you actually, the things you say, just you educate me a little bit. So to just keep me like, okay, these are the things that happens. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting this education from you as well. So I got to give you mad props about that, right? So when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it with fresh eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I've seen some Marvel and some DC sort of, series and films and things of that nature, but I'm not like totally, just into it like that, right? So I'm looking at Loki with fresh eyes, right? So episode 1, 2, and 3 were good. 4, it was action packed. They had the right sort of breadcrumbs. They actually explained those breadcrumbs. They created new breadcrumbs to go into the next 2 episodes. We only have 2 episodes left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we only have 2 episodes left. So I'm just like, wow. And then these 3 new characters they introduced, and that's something else. Folks, if you are watching Loki, you have to watch it until the credits start running. Because they have these little things they show before the credits start running. And, I was watching it, and that's where I saw these 3 new characters. Do you know anything about these 3 new characters?
I think they're variants of Loki. That's what I'm gathering. So
Wow.
people that they've gotten rid of from the timeline or whatever. I think that's what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
I don't know though.
Yeah,
We'll
I'm
have to
giving
see.
that I'm giving this a 8. It was very exciting. I watched it twice. I would watch it again. And I am excited to see like what's going to happen with 4 and 5. I'm sorry, 5 and 6. They cannot, and if they do, I would be so disappointed, but they cannot disappoint with episodes 5 and 6. They just can't. They have to, like you said, they have to land this plane properly because if they don't, they may lose a lot of.
Yeah, people are gonna be mad. They gotta drop something major for the Marvel fans and the people who've been like watching this thing and paying for it.
Yeah,
They have to drop something major.
they
I
do.
did
Yeah.
you watch Game of Thrones?
You know
Did you
what?
watch any of it?
I was not. I have not ever watched. Well, no. I'm not going to say that. Okay,
You
so
like
I have.
seen it like an episode or two every once in a
I
while.
saw like one Saturday they had like just Game of Thrones, and I started watching one. Right, I didn't even know what it was. I just like turned it on. It
Oh,
was
you just
something
got
on, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." And then the next episode came up, and I was like, "Oh, this is Game of Thrones. This is really cool. I like this." I love those. If you go to Netflix, they have shows like that, Netflix original shows like that all
Yeah.
over the place, right?
Kingdom's a really good show. That's kind of
The
in the vein of
Ottomans, they have the Ottomans as well,
yeah.
all that sort of stuff. What were you going to say about Game of Thrones?
Well, I was saying is that Game of Thrones had a system where there's 10 shows in the season, and episode 9 was the bloodiest, most insane show from the whole season. And you kind of, even though you know it's coming, you kind of forget that, oh,
Okay.
wait, episode 9's coming. Something bonkers is about to happen.
Right.
And it's going to change everything about the show. And I'm kind of curious if they're kind of do the same thing here for Loki, where episode 5 could be something really explosive, and episode 6 is like dealing with the fallout of what happened in episode 5.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious if they're going to do that, or they're just going to go episode 6. Here's something crazy, and we're done. Like either or. I'm kind of curious about that.
Let me ask you this here, because again, you know more about this MCU stuff more so than I do. Do you think that, because you said you think the the new characters that were introduced, just very short introduction, you said they were variants of Loki. Do you think that one of the MCU characters will be introduced in the next 2 episodes because we just don't know what the TVA is, who created the TVA, who controls the TVA? Do you think there will be some sort of a Marvel comic introduced into the next 2 episodes?
Now, that's the thing though. I don't know, because they kind of did that for WandaVision, and it turned out to be a fake out. Because they basically did something for, like, do you know about the X-Men?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They're not in the MCU because they didn't have the rights to them. Fox had the rights to them. So in WandaVision, they introduced a character from the X-Men and they put it on her show. And so everybody was like, "Oh my God, this is the bridge. They're gonna unite the whole thing." And then the last episode, it turned to be a fake out, and like it was one of the characters, it was one of the actors from the X-Men movies was on the show.
Wow.
And he's playing his character up until like the last episode. And you're like, "Oh wait, it's a fake out. He's not really back in the MCU anymore. Like this is a joke." That's why a lot of people were upset about the show. So I'm kind of, I don't know. They could do that. There's a possibility they could do that. But also, I think they probably don't want to risk making everybody angry again.
Yeah.
Because they had a beloved character from the X-Men. They brought him into the WandaVision show, and he plays her brother. And so everybody was like, "Oh my God, they did it. They finally did it. This is happening." And they're like, "Oh, no, it's a joke." So I don't think they're probably going to do that again, because that would be a problem. So if they introduce somebody, it's going to be definitely connected to the movies, and I think this is probably going to be for real now. So if they do it, it's going to be for real.
Well, listen, I am definitely looking forward to the next 2 episodes. Again, I gave it an 8. DJ Keo gave it a 7.5. Are you looking forward to the next 2 episodes? The next, these are the final episodes.
I got questions. I got a lot of questions. I hope to get some answers from the next 2 shows. And that'll determine for me if they stick the landing. Right. If I get enough,
that's going to mean a lot.
It can't be like a plot hole. It's got to be a good, solid explanation for some things.
Right.
Then I'll be like, all right, let's go. Good job.
Because that's one of the, again, I've watched, Marvel and DC flicks. But one of the things for me was they ended weirdly for me. It's just like, well, why did it end that way?
Oh, because Marvel had 22 movies coming up. So that's why.
Right. But it's just like, you're right. And so it's just like, okay, the continuation, I mean, I get all that, But anyway, I like this show here. I hope like the next 2 episodes are going to be awesome, and we will see. So there you have it. Another episode of the Behind the Groove podcast. I am Basil Barrington.
I'm DJ Keo. Thank you guys for watching with us again.
Thanks for listening. And until next time, peace.
All right.